Thank you for the invitation to this event. It's a huge honor for me to speak with you about women's issue, but as some speakers have already said, these are not really women's issues. These are societal issues, issues that are important to everyone. And like the previous speaker said, women are half of the population, and that's a fact. And I had also put that down in my notes, that if we are half of the population, why are we still so underrepresented in parliaments, in governments, in different national constructions? In my own country, here in Belgium, we're not a very gender-balanced government. In my own party, we are having ongoing discussions regarding gender equality, but we always stress that it has to be the right person for the job, right? So we shouldn't be thinking that a man is always the right person. Why couldn't a woman be the right person? So I think we have a lot of viable options who are women, but we need to be a little bit more assertive, which has already been said, and that's our long fight. All of us need to show that women can do, like President Obama said, yes, we can. I think that if we think optimistically and in that light, we can work together with men to achieve equality. So I'll go on to your question about running for president of the parliament. My group asked me to stand as a candidate, and I was really taken aback. And I was, of course, at first, well, why me? And they said, well, you have a very good profile, and we'd be proud to have you. And I thought, okay, well, this is my opportunity, and I went for it. And I learned along the way the ins and outs about who really was going to be the next president. And it was all about the old boys club and these backroom deals, and you're going to get this position and you're going to get this position, and all of these dominoes are going to fall just like I say now, right? So all of these important decisions were already decided between the 2 or 3 biggest groups. And the rest of us just had to accept that as a fact and go along with, the pageantry of an election, right? My group wanted to make the point that the decision of who would be the next president should not already be determined. It should be a democratic decision, especially in this institution, which is why they picked me to be the candidate. I mean, as we saw in the run-up to the actual elections, women were eliminated rather quickly. I mean, I stayed in as long as I could, but it became then a political battle, and the biggest groups put a lot of pressure on our group to withdraw our candidacy. And even with that pressure, I stayed in the game as long as I could until it was obvious, and we had come to the point where, okay, I decided that it was enough. Not I was pressured and I was coerced. And I left with my head up. And I think I did well. It was more about showing the power of the old boys network and trying to expose that network, and we need to break through that. Like we're saying here in this room, women are half the population, and women need to be represented at all levels of government, in society. In the Bureau of the European Parliament, it's the 20 vice presidents, and I think we have a pretty good representation. I think there are 8 or 9 women represented there, but we need to make sure that if it's 20 vice presidents, we need to make sure it's at least 10 women. So we need to keep in mind that perfection is not of this world. Everyone is human, everyone wants different things politically, and everyone has different ways of battling. So if we keep that in mind, politics is also about convincing other people, and sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. if we think about women's rights, it is important that we stand. And if we look at the kind of fundamental reason for why women stand, you have to look at education, which is where everything starts. If you go through an educational program where people have low expectations of you because you're a girl, well, that's going to stay with you your whole life. You're going to stay home and you're going to want to take care of the kids, and you're not going to expect more than that, right? Because society still thinks wants women to stay home in certain ways. That's why it's very, very important to focus on this equality in society. And the focus should be also on men and teaching them the benefits of equality. It benefits them. Because there are many, many men who want to have different lives than the ones that they lead now. There are many men who would love to take long, extended paternal leaves. They want to stay home with the kids, but they can't because they're stuck in this societal construct, which is just the other side of the coin. There was a question about why don't men take more parental leave? Why do so many more women take maternity leave, right? It's because men say, if I ask at work for paternity leave, my boss won't think I'm ambitious. And it's like, why can't you be ambitious and want to spend time with your family? Why should the question of balancing work and life, family and work, be a women's only issue? It's a problem for all of us. It's an issue for everyone. So, I wanted to touch on the quota issue. I'm also a product of the quota. I think a lot of us in this room are. And it's very interesting to see some women who say, I'm against quotas 100%. And I think they often forget that they are more likely to be in the position they're in because of quotas, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but I believe that governments and parliaments should lead the way by example. So if parliaments are trying to tell society all the time, you need to be equal all the time, you should be like this, it should be like that, but then within the parliament itself it's not equal, how are you going to expect society to change if you can't look at yourself in the mirror? So quotas are, yes, an important construct to advance women, but I also very much hope that it's as temporary can be. I cannot wait for a time when we don't need quotas. It's a reality that women's rights are under fire. Here in this building, in many of our countries, and this ties into the question about the Istanbul Convention. Some countries are using religious arguments, traditional arguments, to block the ratification of the Istanbul Convention. I don't understand what type of honor, religion, or tradition can justify accepting violence against women. I want to understand that rationale. I want to understand via the voices of the prime ministers of those countries how you feel that combating violence against women is threatening your family values. I don't have an ounce of understanding. There's something twisted going on in the heads of those people. So we need to keep on fighting to ratify the Istanbul Convention. And I just want to make a last bridge to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And we're going through the same fight. We're going through the same struggle. It's about the place of people with disabilities in society. People with disabilities are not half of the population, but we are 15% of the population, which is not insignificant. Where are people with disabilities in government, in parliaments, and administration? So I have a little bit more of a complex fight as a woman and as a person with a disability. We also want our place in society as well. We can contribute, and in the fight for women's rights and the fight for the rights of disabled people, there are so many parallels. I personally have not experienced this, but other people with disabilities experience it all the time. Oh, you're disabled, so obviously you can't do this. Stay home, be happy to receive your government benefits, and that's the end of it. Women with disabilities want to be involved, and you can see women with disabilities are very, very far behind men with disabilities. So I think the organizations who represent women, who represent disability rights, who represent LGBT rights, who represent people of color, should all work together to achieve a more inclusive and a more equal society for all. And I'll end on that.